You know, when you upgrade from like a standard definition TV to a 4K display.
Oh, yeah. It is a massive difference.
Right. Suddenly you can see, I don't know, individual blades of grass and the exact texture of the actor's jacket.
You can't go back once you see it.
Exactly. Well, basic language is basically that standard definition screen. It gets the plot across. You understand what's happening.
But it's missing that sharpness.
Yes, exactly. But professional, highly precise language, that is full 4K. It leaves absolutely zero room for ambiguity.
Which is so crucial in high-level communication.
So today, we are upgrading your cognitive software to that 4K resolution. Welcome to another deep dive.
Okay, we've got a great one today.
We really do. Our mission today is to master the hidden architecture of English modifiers. Specifically, we're looking at how advanced communicators wield adjectives and adverbs to engineer their sentences for maximum impact.
And this is a necessary upgrade because, well, as an advanced speaker, you already know the elementary mechanics.
Right, the basics.
Exactly. You know, adjectives modify nouns and adverbs modify verbs. But the difference between being just fluent and being truly commanding in English often comes down to these really subtle, almost invisible structural choices you make.
Which is what we are digging into today based on a great stack of audio lectures and grammar breakdowns.
Yeah, we're going to examine the psychology of phrase placement, the structural pitfalls that can completely derail your meaning, and those tricky, irregular rule breakers.
The ones that cause even native speakers to stumble, right?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
Especially in professional settings.
Exactly. We aren't here to rehash basic grammar. We want to build a mental map of why certain structures work and why others cause your listener's brain to just, well, glitch.
And there are a lot of glitches to avoid.
So many. But before we get into complex phrase architecture, let's unpack a very specific illusion that trips up so many people. The Emily trap.
Oh, this is a big one.
It really is. I've always mapped this out visually in my head. I think of adjectives as like the costume designer for a noun.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Dressing up a person, place, or thing, like a careful driver.
Sure.
And then adverbs are the stage director for the verb, telling the action how to behave. Like, they drove carefully.
It's a really useful visual. But let's pressure test that costume designer versus stage director analogy for a second.
Okay, let's do it.
Because it actually explains why the Staley trap is so dangerous. See, we are conditioned to look at that Staley suffix and immediately assume it's a stage director.
Right, because of words like quickly or loudly.
Exactly. We assume it's an adverb directing an action.
Yeah.
But there was a whole class of words like friendly, lovely, lonely, and silly that wear the Saisley uniform but are strictly costume designers.
Wait, so they are just adjectives.
Strictly adjectives.
Yeah, which creates this weird cognitive friction because if you have a friendly colleague and you want to describe how they speak, your brain naturally wants to say, he spoke friendly.
Which sounds completely wrong.
It sounds terrible. It feels like a glitch in the matrix.
It is a glitch because you're trying to use a costume designer to direct the lighting. You just cannot use an adjective to modify a verb.
So what do you do instead?
Well, when you encounter this in a professional environment, you have to restructure the thought entirely. You pivot to a prepositional phrase. So instead of he spoke friendly, you say he spoke in a friendly manner.
Oh, okay. That distinction right there is the 4K upgrade. You can't just rely on the spelling.
You really can't.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the structural job the word is actually doing in the sentence.
So if I say, the new hire did bad in the presentation, I'm using bad, which is a costume designer, to modify the action of doing.
Exactly, which is a mismatch. You need the stage director there. So you'd say, she did badly.
Right, she did badly.
And the reason this matters isn't just about, passing a grammar test. When you use an adjective where an adverb belongs, it signals to a native speaker's subconscious that your grasp of the language is just slightly out of focus.
It distracts from your actual message.
It completely does.
Which brings us to scaling up. Because sentences in the real world aren't just single words acting in isolation.
Right? No, rarely.
To communicate complex, nuanced ideas, those single modifiers have to form teams. And this is where the architecture gets really interesting. Let's look at adverb phrases first.
Okay.
Why do we need an entire phrase to modify an action when a single word could technically do the job?
Basically because single words often lack the necessary precision. An adverb phrase is a group of words functioning collectively to pinpoint exactly how, when, where, or to what extent something happened.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. If you say, we rarely think about this process, the simple adverb rarely gives us a vague frequency.
Yeah, it's pretty broad.
Right.
Yeah.
But in, say, a corporate postmortem, you need specifics. You expand that core. You say, he moved through the protocol very quickly and without authorization.
Ah, so the phrase acts as a hyperspecific parameter for the action.
Precisely. You are giving the listener's brain a highly detailed rendering of the event. But adjective phrases behave quite differently, and they actually challenge our natural reading rhythms.
How so?
Well, single adjectives almost always precede the noun. The heavy rain, the tall tree. But when you build an adjective phrase, it frequently has to follow the noun it modifies.
Oh, right. Like saying the professional with extensive experience.
Yes,
For
exactly.
the building across the street.
Yeah.
The noun comes first, and the costume designer trails behind it.
Yes. And understanding that placement is crucial because of what happens when you try to force a complex description in front of a noun. This is where we run into a major structural hazard.
Oh, the missing hyphen hazard? I love this part. I actually call hyphens syntactical handcuffs.
Syntactical handcuffs. That is perfect.
Yeah, you use them to lock a bunch of words together so the reader's brain doesn't get confused about what's modifying what.
It's a great way to conceptualize the mechanics. Let's break down the psychology of why those syntactical handcuffs are so essential.
Please do.
When a person reads, their eyes don't process letter by letter. They take in chunks of words called saccades.
The saccades, okay.
So if you write user-friendly equipment without a hyphen, the reader's brain briefly parses user as a noun. Then it hits friendly and has to recalculate the sentence structure in milliseconds.
It creates like a micro stutter in comprehension.
Exactly. The hyphen acts as a massive neon sign that says, treat these next two words as one single unbreakable unit, a compound modifier.
So it guides the eye.
Exactly. Think of the difference between a long-legged bird with a hyphen and a long-legged bird without one.
Wait, without the handcuff, are you talking about a bird that is incredibly long and also just happens to have legs?
Right, meaning completely fractures.
Or what about a 20-story building? Without the hyphen, am I reading 20 separate stories about a building?
Exactly, you have to handcuff them together.
Yeah.
A well-dressed lady, user-friendly interface.
It makes such a difference.
It really does. Because if you leave those handcuffs off, you risk creating dangling or ambiguous modifiers. The reader attaches the first word to the wrong concept, and suddenly your professional proposal reads like a joke.
And eliminating that ambiguity is really the hallmark of a truly sophisticated writer.
Without a doubt.
Well, that perfectly transitions us into the real danger zones, because building these complex phrases is a powerful tool, but dropping them into the wrong slot in your sentence architecture can completely derail your meaning.
Oh, absolutely. Adverb placement, in particular, is notoriously strict.
It feels very rigid.
It is rigid for a reason, though. English relies heavily on word order to convey meaning, unlike languages that use case endings. The general operating rule is that adverbs go immediately before the main verb.
So, like, the system never crashes. You are
Yeah.
putting the stage director right next to the actor.
Yes, but there is a massive exception that always catches people off guard. The be verbs.
Right. Am, is, are, was, were.
Yes. Adverbs generally go after be verbs. So you'd say, the system is always crashing.
Why does the be verb flip the rules like that? I've always thought of the be verb as just an equal sign, like the system equals crashing.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Does it just act like a magnet pulling the modifier behind it?
That's essentially it. A be verb is a linking verb. It connects the subject to its state of being. So the adverb slips in right after that connection is made to modify the state itself.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the most powerful placement rule for advanced communicators involves past participles. This is something you see constantly in high-level corporate and academic writing.
You're talking about phrases like the badly organized event or the beautifully written report.
Exactly. When you place an adverb directly before past participle, you achieve something very specific psychologically.
Psychologically, how so?
Well, let's say you're writing a postmortem on a failed project. You could write, the team organized the event badly.
Yikes. That points a direct, aggressive finger at the team.
Right. It's grammatically fine, but it sounds a little petty. It's too active.
So what's the alternative?
If you shift to the passive voice and use this modifier structure, the event was badly organized, you instantly sound more objective.
Oh, wow. You were critiquing the architecture of the event itself, not attacking the people.
Exactly. The driver was seriously injured. The data was poorly analyzed. It creates a very tight, authoritative, and professional tone.
That is fascinating. The grammar rule isn't just about correctness. It's about diplomacy and tone management.
It really is.
Well, speaking of correctness, we have to address the trap that catches literally everyone, the good versus well trap.
The classic pitfall. The rule itself is simple. Good is an adjective. It modifies nouns. Well is an adverb. It modifies verbs.
So you can be a good pianist, but you play the piano well. You cannot say you play good.
Right.
But I want to explore the real-world usage of this. Because if someone asks, how are you doing? And I say, I am doing good. I mean, native speakers say that all the time.
All okay.
But structurally, it's a mess, isn't it?
Structurally, yes, it's a disaster. Doing is an action, so it requires the adverb well. I am doing well. Now, colloquially, language evolves. And saying I'm good is perfectly acceptable in casual conversation. But here's the cognitive nuance. Well can actually function as an adjective in one specific context. Oh, what context is that?
Health.
So if I say I am very well, am is our be verb, our equal sign, and well is acting as a costume designer describing my physical state.
Correct. For strict precision, if you are talking about your health, you are well.
So what does I am doing good actually mean then, structurally?
Well, if you say I am doing good in a philosophical sense, you're technically implying that you are out in the world performing good deeds. Like a superhero.
Like Batman.
Exactly like Batman. It's a subtle distinction, but in formal environments, precision matters.
Okay, so if precision is the goal, how do we map out the rebels? The words that completely refuse to follow the rules and don't change form at all.
Yeah, the irregular rule breakers. These are tricky. 3 of the most essential ones in English are fast, hard, and late.
And they act as both adjectives and adverbs without ever adding that lemily suffix.
Yes. So if I say, Jack is a fast runner, fast is an adjective modifying the noun runner.
Right.
But if I say, Jack runs fast, fast is now an adverb modifying the verb runs. The exact same word is doing 2 completely different jobs.
Yes. Your brain relies entirely on the structural placement to understand the meaning. The same applies to hard. Anne is a hard worker.
Adjective.
She works hard. Adverb.
You've got it.
But wait, hardly is absolutely a word in the dictionary. I hear it, I read it all the time. If hard is already the adverb, what is hardly doing?
This is where advanced learners walk right into a minefield.
Oh boy.
Because adding the -ly suffix to these specific irregulars doesn't just change their grammatical function. It fundamentally alters their definition.
Wait, really?
Yes. Often it reverses it completely. Hard, as an adverb, means with great effort. He tried hard to secure the contract.
Meaning he put in a lot of work.
Right. But hardly means almost not at all. It implies a near absence of effort or quantity. He hardly tried to secure the contract. That is a catastrophic shift in meaning. Imagine writing a performance review and saying, John is hardly working, when you meant to say, John is working hard.
You just accidentally fired John.
Literally. You just ruined his career.
Exactly. The misplaced suffix destroys your intended meaning. We have hardly any budget left means the money is gone. I could hardly hear the client means the audio was terrible.
So you have to treat hard and hardly as 2 completely unrelated concepts in your mental map.
You absolutely must.
Does the same disaster happen with late and lately? If I add an "-ly" to late, does it mean like extremely delayed?
No, it shifts the meaning to a different dimension of time entirely. Late, as an adverb, means arriving after the expected hour. I worked late last night.
Meaning I was at my desk until midnight.
Yes. But lately means recently. Have you been working lately?
Which just means, have you been employed in the recent past? Again, a completely different concept.
Right. If you tell your manager, I've been arriving lately, they will look at you with total confusion.
They'll have no idea what you mean.
Exactly. You have to say, I've been arriving late. The precision there isn't just cosmetic. It is foundational to being understood.
Which leads us to an even deeper layer of fluency, navigating metaphorical nuance, choosing the exact right irregular word to sharpen the impact of your thought, especially when the concepts aren't strictly physical.
This is where we look at irregular adjectives and comparisons. Standard adjectives follow a clean, predictable upgrade path. Tall, taller, tallest. You just add a suffix.
Right. Very simple.
But the most foundational concepts in human experience completely ignore that upgrade path.
Good, better, best, bad, worse, worse.
Exactly. But the pair that requires the most cognitive finesse is farther versus further.
Oh, I actually have a mental map for this one. I always tell people farther with an A is for your GPS and further with a U is for your brain.
I like the simplicity of that. But let's push back on it slightly.
Oh, really? Okay.
It works for the extremes, but language is messier than that. Farther is strictly for physical, measurable distance. Tokyo is the farthest office from our headquarters. You can measure that in miles. Your GPS analogy holds up perfectly there.
Right. And further with a U.
Further is for metaphorical distance, extension of a thought, time, or degree. Let's discuss this protocol further. I have no further questions. You use it in your brain.
Okay, that fits my map so far.
But what happens if you tell someone to read further into the report? Is that physical distance down the page or mental depth?
Oh, that's tricky. It's kind of both.
Exactly. When the physical and the metaphorical blend, standard professional English defaults to further. It has become the more versatile, overarching term.
That makes a lot of sense.
Recognizing those subtle shifts, from physical reality to metaphorical extension, is a core strategy for commanding the language.
And if we're talking about words that refuse to follow the standard upgrade path like hard and fast or good and bad, that exact same cognitive friction happens with verbs. It's a systemic feature of English.
It is. The need for absolute precision ties directly into mastering irregular verbs, particularly when we use the present perfect tense.
The present perfect. This is the tense that uses have or has plus the past participle, right? Like the company has launched the product.
Right. For regular verbs, the past participle is simple. You just add eat. Launch becomes launched.
Super easy.
But regular verbs demand that you pull a completely different word form from your memory. Think, thought, thought. Speak, spoke, spoken. Write, wrote, written.
We use this tense constantly in business and news, don't we? It bridges the gap between the past and the present.
It does. It emphasizes an action that is technically completed, but its impact is happening right now.
Give me an example.
If a news anchor says, scientists have discovered a new element, the actual discovery happened in the past. But using the present perfect frames the achievement as highly relevant to our current reality.
But mastering those irregular forms is so daunting. If you look at a list of hundreds of irregular verbs, your brain just shuts down. How does an advanced learner internalize these without getting completely overwhelmed?
The overarching strategy here is to manage cognitive load. Rote memorization of a massive list just fails because your brain cannot assign context to 200 random words at once.
So what's the hack?
The most effective approach is microdosing the information. Pick just 5 irregular verbs a day.
5 a day. That feels incredibly low stakes.
It needs to be low stakes to bypass the brain's stress response. You take those 5 verbs, build them into sentences relevant to your actual life or job, and, this is the most critical part, you must speak them out loud.
Because it builds muscle memory.
Yes. It activates Broca's area in your brain, which is responsible for speech production.
Oh, wow.
Saying drive, drove, driven out loud forces your vocal cords, your tongue, and your brain to synchronize. You aren't just memorizing data. You are physically practicing a structural maneuver until it feels completely natural.
You're upgrading the hardware and the software at the exact same time.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a step back and look at the whole 4K picture we've built today. We started by dismantling the habla trap, recognizing that words like friendly are costume designers for nouns.
And you have to rewire your sentence to avoid using them as stage directors for actions.
Right. Then we examined the architecture of phrases, highlighting how adverb phrases provide hyper-specific parameters for actions and how adjective phrases demand careful placement.
We talked about the psychology of syntactical handcuffs.
The hyphens.
Yes, those critical hyphens in compound modifiers like user-friendly, and how leaving them out causes a reader's brain to momentarily glitch and misinterpret your meaning.
We navigated the strict placement rules of the be verb and explored how placing an adverb before a past participle like badly organized can subtly shift blame,
making your writing sound far more objective.
We skirted the edges of the good versus well trap and confronted those treacherous irregulars where adding an obli doesn't just change the grammar.
It triggers a catastrophic reversal of meaning, turning a hard worker into someone who hardly works.
Poor John. Finally, we mapped the metaphorical territory of farther versus further and laid out a brain-friendly 5-a-day strategy for internalizing irregular verbs through physical vocalization.
It is a massive structural upgrade.
It really is. But it brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We've spent this entire deep dive analyzing rules, traps, and mechanics. But the very existence of things like compound hyphenated adjectives, user-friendly, data-driven, cloud-based, proves something profoundly beautiful about human language.
It proves that language is an open-source project. It's constantly being patched.
Exactly. Language is never static. We are continuously forced to invent new, hyper-specific word combinations because our existing vocabulary is never quite enough to capture the bleeding edge of the reality we live in.
That's a great point.
50 years ago, no human being on Earth needed the phrase user-friendly interface. But the technology changed, human interaction changed, and so we handcuffed words together to explain it. We engineered a patch.
And we all silently agreed to download that patch and use it.
Exactly. So as you go through your day today, I challenge you to look at the language around you differently. Look for those hyphenated phrases in your emails and reports or on billboards.
They are everywhere once you start looking.
They really are. And when you spot one, ask yourself, what specific gap in human experience was that exact phrase invented to fill? When you start noticing the architecture behind the words, you aren't just communicating in standard definition anymore.
You're seeing the code.
You are seeing the real-time 4K evolution of human thought. Keep noticing, keep questioning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.